It is fight time. Special shouts out to all of my people out here. We are about to get it popping.
It's a big fight weekend. We've waited for this for a long time. A lot of talk, a lot of negotiation, and the fight weekend is here between no other than Gervonta Tank Davis and Ryan Garcia. Now, I tell you what, you said something a moment ago,
Yeah.
and I'm going to bring it back around.
What?
You said something that really caught my attention. You said the fight is already determined
Yeah.
before those fellows step through those ropes.
Yeah. The fight's determined. And that's what's so unique about the fight game, because when you're on the outside, and even when you get to a level that is still, you're known and you're very popular, there's so many things that are hidden in the sport, because what's different about boxing is the giants of old, meaning the old school teachers, they're very secretive.
Yeah.
They don't let things out of the bag. So what we're going to go into is, number one, what are some of the things that you got to be prepared for at this level that you may not have an idea, even if you're an Olympian?
Yeah.
Going into the professional ranks, these are things that you have to know are coming. And so when you go into a training camp, there are things that you have to look at. And a lot of fighters, trainers, don't have really a blueprint. They're learning on the job. They may be second generation, and they may have some of the things. What were you going to ask?
No, so I was going to say, let's talk about preparation.
Yeah.
Preparation for that fight. That's something that we want to dive into.
The key thing is, so that you all have notes, make sure you have a notepad, because the guys have to be prepared. One thing you will know that's alarming, look for these type things. As we just had one of our fighters go into a training camp and have a big fight. And these things are life-changing. So you got to know how to do these things. Number one, you have to have, and these are some of the boxes that were not checked, that I wasn't aware of. If you're going to be traveling to fight someone in a different time zone, what is the actual time period that you need to have your body acclimated? Because you could be at a different sea level, and the oxygen levels change. So a lot of people will, matter of fact, 100% of fighters will have to go through this. Coaches sometimes don't have the proper budget to say, okay, we can go over here and stay for 2 weeks. But guess what? Your body needs, you're pushing it only being there 2 weeks. So if I was going from east to west coast, that's a 5-hour flight. If you are going 5 hours, there's a time zone difference of 3 hours. Your body has to acclimate. If you're coming from somewhere that's hot year round, and then you have to go to a cold climate, where I'm at is hot year round. So my body has to adapt if I go into 40 degrees.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, and not to mention just being dehydrated. A plane ride for anyone is going to affect your hydration levels.
Yes.
Which is super important.
Jet lag settles in. So you see a lot of fighters when they're in their younger stages, they'll take flight and they'll do the thing the week of the fight. You can basically cancel that out. You're going to run into hurdles in so many kinds of ways. I never advise going anywhere if you don't have your boxing program and your system in place. And there's one thing that all athletes need to know is, when you box, you got to check all of the boxes. You have to have the proper team. You have to have a boxing lineage. And why is that? Because you have to pull from someone else's experiences. And if you don't, what you're going to find is that you're going to have to learn all of the tricks of the trade that even to this current day people are throwing new wrinkles. But if you've seen it all, you understand what they're trying to do. If you haven't, you're going to be a victim of it all.
And that's exactly what we saw happen, is not having that team around you showing up. 9 times out of 10, you're going to be on foreign territory.
Yes.
And when you need to come together.
Yeah.
And have your team, everyone that you need.
Yes.
So it's imperative.
And what we're going to discuss is how many people need to be in your camp.
Yeah.
The kind of people that you're going to need in your camp. This is the kind of discussions that we will have inside of the Coach's Corner. each month we'll make sure that the kind of information that you gotta have will prevent you from these situations, because you got a checklist. And if you're fighting someone like Ryan Garcia,
Yeah.
and we're going to go through the boxes to be checked with the Ryan Garcia and the Tank, things that I've seen that most people haven't, you know,
Yeah.
because when you have 3 generations and we're passing down to you guys generation 4, you got to know this, that the knowledge that you're bringing, the things that you discuss, the things that you don't know about that are coming, you have to have insight to why is it that some fighters, let's just go to guys like Manny Pacquiao, Floyd Mayweather, who figured the game out. They knew how to make the game work for them. Andre Ward, Bernard Hopkins, they figured the game out. Marvin Hagler, these guys, they didn't know the game at first, but they figured it out. Marvin Hagler used to go through and maul guys, just smashing guys. He had over 50 fights before he got a title shot. Today, guys are retired in 38 fights. Yeah. This dude, he had a fight, but he was doing it what we call the hard way. Bernard Hopkins, he got it the hard way, but he figured it out. Bernard Hopkins started focusing on the politics of boxing, so he started going to Capitol Hill during his reign and doing good things. Now, we got some people dropping some questions, so what we're going to do is give some people some shout outs. Once again, make sure you let us know where you're watching from and what city you represent, and are you in a boxing gym? And if so, which one is that? Biggest thing, go to the Facebook.
Okay.
Biggest thing is having this, and now what we're going to get into is what is it that these two guys will have to do. One thing that an athlete of Tank stature will bring to the table is a lot of quickness, a lot of slickness, and where he's from is Baltimore. In Baltimore, I have my own personal experience. That's where I bred our fighters, and it is the belly of the beast. It is the people, and the level of competition is not to be matched. And right up under that, you got Virginia. And if you don't know, that's where Sweet Pea comes from. And so many other fighters, Frankie Randall and those guys trained from. Mayweather used to come from Detroit, Michigan. They used to come here and do work with guys like Frankie Randall, who was undefeated and was the first person to beat Chavez. And when that was the case, that was giving those guys the highest level of competition in the ring that they could get, right?
Yeah.
And because the amateur program is absolutely, hands down, the best in the country, and there are only 4 states that produce these level of guys, and it's because the level of training competition that you have people who could blow you out of the water in that gym. So there are few people that can, places that can produce that. There are a lot of guys in gyms that have gym rats. These cities have the highest level of pedigree, world champion level guys. And, you know, that's what my experience was. Got an opportunity to work against guys who, you know, wore straps, gold medalists. When you're walking into these kind of facilities, these guys aren't coming in there to spar. They're coming in there to wear a strap. They're coming for the WBC. They're not playing. So with that being said, that's where Tank came from. So there's so many stories that I can share with you, and we'll go through. That's kind of what we do with our film study.
Yeah.
We'll really break it down.
Film studies are deep.
Yeah,
really deep.
We break it down, but Tank has that kind of experience in his corner, having Floyd, so he's giving him a lot of tricks of the trade. That's why he's out on his own now, because he feels like he wants to be a big boy. Now, the reality is Ryan Garcia. I'm going to share something with you guys about Ryan Garcia that I don't think anyone's understanding. And I shared a little bit of this with you earlier. When a person finds his spiritual place in fighting and drops all of the ego and starts to embrace humility, because one thing that's for sure, and I share it with fighters all the time, is the highest level of combat is humility. Holyfield had it when he fought Tyson. He's embracing his problems with his anxiety. He's evolved from it. And when you have a man that just constantly reaches in and goes to that spiritual place, his mind is not switching. He's keeping that gear locked in, and he knows he needs it. And what are the things that we're going to need to match these guys up? How do you actually match them up? One of the things, pedigree.
Yeah.
All right. Number one, the first thing you really pay attention to is, what has the guy been through? What is his experiences? And will he be in the right mindset to overcome what could happen that night? Ryan Garcia has been knocked down in a really, really high profile fight, because anytime you fight anyone from the UK, you're going to have a profile fight bigger than over in the USA at that level, because, you know, we have so many sports to pay attention to. We have so many elite fighters.
Yeah.
We don't really pay a lot of attention to one actual type of fighter. We don't really do it unless it's a fight of this magnitude. Back in the 80s, 90s, and 70s, yeah, everything that was boxing, it was on television, it was mainstream.
Yep.
Now the mainstream sport is football, and you can't compete with that. And so, with that being said, here's the deal. When Ryan Garcia got off of that canvas against Campbell, what you saw was a man who understood he's here for more, and he has the amateur pedigree. The second thing that you saw is that he knew that the world was watching, and he had something to prove. He said as he was growing up, he had already envisioned his level of championship status. And when you start calling rounds and then you all the way up until the fight, you still on it, there's something to be said about that. And then you look at number three, the corner. Who has the better corner? You look at the corner because the corner is going to give you that time. Joe Goosen is the corner man for arguably the greatest comeback fight in boxing history. There was Archie Moore versus Yvonne Durrell, and then there was Corrales versus Castillo. I watched it live. It was the corner that called the action that it was going to be required. And when you got that kind of fortitude in the corner, he grabbed Diego by the face and was like, you got to get in there now. After being knocked down twice, Corrales, and he's up to freaking energy because he knows what they've been through camp. He prepped them mentally. And the Goosen family is cemented in the boxing lineage. Now, Hall of Fame. When you have that kind of corner, it's nothing he has not seen. That was 10th round.
Yeah.
And something like that can happen in this fight. And guess who's going to know that? Ryan Garcia. And Ryan Garcia understands what this man that he's chosen to be in his corner has been through.
Yeah.